Hello all heroes and welcome back to Invincible guarding the globe, and today we are going to be going over the newest character to be released in the game, DARKWING 2. We're going to be going over, of course, his skills, his abilities, all that jazz. I still absolutely find it hilarious that he is unironically just referred to as Nightwing 2. It's just funny to me. So, he is coming to us as a melee Earth's Defenders character, not to be confused with Darkwing 1, who is actually a ranged character. This boy is melee. He's going in with fists. And he's actually our first new Earth's Defenders character since the global release of the game, so that's kind of a nice little distinction there. Taking a look at his tags here, he is humans, melee, grounded, support, technologist, and malefactors. Interesting that he has a malefactors tag, since he is technically considered a hero. Question mark? I mean, I know that was kind of in question in the show, because he does have a bit of a murdery streak. But just kind of an interesting little note there, where just because he's an Earth Defender does not necessarily mean he's good. I mean, I guess to be fair, Omni-Man's in that tag too, so take that how you will. So, we have a few abilities here to talk about, keeping in mind that he is considered a support character. First of all, his main ability, Into the Shadowverse, not to be confused with the Spider-Verse, which I just watched last night. Darkwing 2 brings an enemy into the Shadowverse with him for 3 seconds. So, if I'm not mistaken, this effectively just knocks the enemy out of the game for 3 seconds, which is interesting. I guess if he hits this with on the strongest enemy, could actually help out. When they come out, the enemy receives 250% damage and silence for 3 seconds. Just a reminder that silence keeps them from using their abilities. And then at around level 6, their energy defense is also reduced for a few seconds. At max level, it is a 5-second ability, and then they are silenced and have their energy defense reduced for an additional 5 seconds. So like I said, kind of interesting, because it seems like it's meant to be just kind of taking one of their characters out of the game along with yourself, because I imagine he disappears too. Or maybe he doesn't. I don't know. Maybe he actually stays in the game. That would require a little bit of testing. If we're looking at his second ability here, Crime Preventer at Elite Plus, Malefactor's enemy skill cooldowns are 5% slower. Level 10, that goes up to 20%. Basically, keeping Malefactor enemies from using their abilities quite as fast, which ironically would also work against himself. If a Darkwing 2 is fighting a Darkwing 2, they would actually affect each other. A little funny little tidbit there, but you're going to see a lot of that from like the Mauler twins and some of the criminals and stuff. At Exceptional Plus, he gets Shadow Boxing. Every 20 seconds, he uses the Shadowverse to teleport close to a random enemy. He punches them, dealing a critical hit using 200% attack, reducing the enemy's critical chance by 10% for 3 seconds. So what this effectively is, he's effectively teleporting to somebody, random, so it doesn't really matter if they're like close or far to him, if I'm not mistaken. He gets a massive attack boost and gets the guaranteed critical hit. And then reducing the enemy's crit chance is just kind of a nice little bonus on top. If we take a look at level 5, he also taunts them for 1 second, which is kind of interesting. Oh, and it actually changes from random enemy to enemy with the highest attack. That is interesting. So that kind of reduces the randomness of it. And then if we go all the way up to level 10, it's every 18 seconds, 250% attack, reducing their crit chance by 30 seconds, and taunting them for 3 seconds. It's interesting that he gets a taunt, because he's not a defender, which means he's probably not going to have the defensive stats. I mean, he does reduce their crit chance, but not all enemies really rely on crits, so interesting factor there. When Darkwing 2 emerges from the shadows, he heals for 5% of his max HP. And then once you get up to, let's see here. Once you get up to just 3, he actually gets a shield equal to 5% of his max HP for 5 seconds, going all the way up to 15% of his max HP with 15% healing. I guess that's kind of what makes him a pseudo defender, because in this ability, he teleports using the Shadowverse. In this, when he emerges from the Shadowverse, he's going to get healing. So I guess that's kind of what they're going for there, where he gets a taunt here, but if you have this ability maxed out or leveled up, he has some fresh healing and a fresh shield to actually weather that taunt. So, what am I thinking about this guy? He's different. He's very different. He's more so meant to throw the enemy off, as opposed to actually deal damage. He's not going to be a massive damage dealer, I don't think. I would just be really curious to see what this Shadowverse ability actually does. If it deletes basically himself and the enemy from the battle for a few seconds, then, I mean, yeah, fair enough. But I can't help but wonder if he deletes only the enemy, but then he stays out. Like I said, it requires some testing, which I have not had the chance to do, tragically. But that is an interesting ability. Also, the fact that he is a taunting support is very interesting, and he does have healing. He's a support blended with a defender, which is interesting. So you're not going to be wanting him for damage. You're going to be wanting him to kind of throw off the enemy with all of his Shadowverse teleporting and silencing effects, and then the taunt on this ability. The problem is you don't get the taunt till like level 5. So to actually get him running, you're going to have to give him some skill investment. Same goes for this ability. He doesn't get the shield till a little bit higher, which is something to factor in. He needs some skill ups. Crime Preventer, I think you can just pretty much ignore. Decreasing the enemy's skill cooldown is all fine and dandy, but I think you can just put that on the back burner. Into the Shadowverse is okay. That's probably lower priority. You could get that up to like level 6. You can just get some energy defense reduction and stop there. Probably the two things that are the most important is getting Shadowboxing up to level 5 so that he'll always attack the enemy with the highest attack, and then getting Made in the Shade powered up as high as possible. This is probably the one you're going to want to prioritize if you're building up Darkwing, because if you don't, when he gets the taunt from this ability, he might not have enough healing and shielding to survive, which would be a problem. So you're probably going to want to give Made in the Shade quite a lot of love just to get his healing and bulkiness up. Now, as far as artifacts to stick on this guy, there's probably a few directions you can go. Let's see here. Mark Grayson's earpiece, I know, is basically just an AoE. Like I said, the fact that he teleports to an enemy, especially the highest attack enemy, is actually worth pointing out. So basically, he could teleport to the enemy, and once he's close to them, this can do some damage. Especially considering that, well, I guess this doesn't actually matter his position, because it says creates an explosion around a random target. So I guess it doesn't really matter all that much. It's more of a tactical nuke, I guess. Point is, I think that could pair very well with him. Flaxen Anti-Aging Bracelet would also be a good one, because the faster his cooldown is, the more likely he is to get characters into that Nightverse. I could definitely see the Cloaking Device being handy, kind of some of your more standard abilities there. Battle Hologram. Nothing too unique there. Martian Spear could also be interesting, because he's, of course, a melee character, so he's going to be around a lot of melee range enemies, and that could give him a little bit of extra damage. Kind of something to keep in mind there. So when you're planning your artifacts, go for either ability cooldown or raw damage, is what I am thinking. Of course, right now he is not actually available in the shop. We only had him temporarily available during the event. Once another character is released, he should be added, unless he strangely goes the route of Thula and Lucan, where they just disappeared off the face of the earth. We'll see. But yeah, if you do have Darkwing and you are using him, let me know down in the comments below how he's working for you. Like I said, I think his main ability is enemy disruption, with a hint of damage sprinkled in there, but he's more so a support with defender aspects, is the vibe I'm getting, especially from these two abilities. I mean, for crying out loud, he actually gets a freaking taunt from his third ability and a shield from his fourth ability. If you showed this character's kit to me and I didn't already know what he was, I would assume he was a defender probably. But he's actually a support. So defensive support is what we're going to call that. So yeah, let me know down in the comments below what you think of this character. Have you used him? Did he work out well for you? Did you invest in him? Because I think he really is one of those characters who requires investing to hit his maximum potential, but that's just my opinion on that one. So let me know down in the comments below, and we shall see you next time. Have a good one.